Hi. So, என் பேர் பிரபு. இங்கே எத்தனை பேருக்கு பார்க்கோர்? How many of you are familiar with parkour? Okay. You guys have heard of parkour? Okay. Parkour is the art of crossing obstacles. So basically, whatever comes your way, how do you jump? How do you climb? How do you roll? Right. So that is fundamentally parkour of how you go from point A to point B in a as efficient, fluid, and safe manner. In the moon, anybody you see will be climbing, jumping. Kids do it all the time. Monkeys do it even more. But the idea is to keep that as efficient as possible, as fluid as possible, and as safe as possible. If these three elements are not met, then it can't be considered parkour, right? So I've been practicing for like 15 years now in Chennai, and like over 10 years after I started practicing, it became apparent that the kind of parkour that is being portrayed in media and how it is taken forward doesn't make sense in the long run. The potential of parkour is not being tapped. So we started looking for other avenues how you can explore in terms of applications or in terms of explorations, in terms of collaborations. So we started working with theatre groups. So we started working, I'm not sure if you've heard of it, but Magic Lantern is there is a theatre group. So they did this play called Ponniyin Selvan. அதில் வந்து there like பொன்னியின் செல்வன் படிச்சிருக்கீங்களா? அதில் வந்து there's group called ஆபத்துதவிகள்னு சொல்லிட்டு ஒரு group of assassins who will come to kill the crown prince and the family. So we played the roles of the assassins. We started working with them, and slowly we started working with contemporary dancers. We started working with different sets of groups. We started choreographing for movies and all those things. And one of the most important aspects that we noticed in whenever people come for parkour and they were exceptional in parkour was that most of them the way they understood things was completely different, right? Like 19-year-olds, like or 15-year-olds or 21, 22, whatever age they were, the way they understood language, the way they understood subjects in terms of like your academics, it was completely different. But they were like exceptional in terms of kinesthetics and movement. And so it became a team of people who trained together, Madri. And one of the areas where we tried to explore was in terms of how useful parkour can be for children with special needs. So we started working with this school called Vidyasagar. Not sure if you are aware of it. It's a school in Koturburam. It has about 170 odd children with autism, cerebral palsy, learning disabilities. So the first year was like more of an experiment. What can you do in terms of how movement is perceived by them and how it can be useful. So first year was an amazing learning experience for us. We had no idea how to work with these children, but the school was gracious enough to give us a space to sit and work with them, with the teachers by our side to guide us. And one of the things that we realized as we worked with them was that what we had in hand, parkour, was something that was very, very innate in humans, right? Like 10,000 years or 15,000 years back, before humans started agriculture, what humans used to do for survival, right? That is how humanity has evolved over a period of time. In terms of searching for food, or you need to climb every day, you need to trees, or you need all kinds of terrain, swimming. These are all aspects of the human body and mind which made us what we are. But last few thousand years we are slowly becoming more and more flat grounds, right angles, and like everything is specific to a particular purpose madri poga. It kind of, the more we work with these children, we realize that these movements can help, right? And so we came across this project called the Human Connectome Project. Okay, it's by the I keep forgetting the name, some university in the US. Like there are multiple universities working together. So what they are doing is they are trying to map the areas of the human brain that are connected to each other. So they have classified the areas as what areas doing what. That most of the literature already knows. Now what they are doing in Human Connectome Project is which are the areas that are connected to each other. How is it connecting, and how one area firing in the brain is linking all the other regions and how it is like. So they have made this data public. They have like, so around 2500 neurotypical people data is there, and they're also studying children with autism, with development disabilities, with various learning disabilities, and understanding how the connections are being different. And that became the basis for our activities with the special school, right? So, and as and when we applied, like how the element of balance is so necessary for children, because that is something that they crave. One of the things that we noticed was like, இப்போ குழந்தைங்க நிறைய பேர் வந்து even if they are walking on a platform, suddenly they'll go to the edge and they'll start balancing on the edge. It's a flat surface, or they'll find one line and they'll start walking on a line. Yes, as a part of play they do it, but when we started observing it, we realized that, so this is what we do in parkour. So we go and we see a wall which is like very narrow, we immediately go on top and see if we can crawl on top of it, climb on top of it, different things. We keep experimenting with what we can do with our bodies and the environment that is available to us. So what we are right now trying to do is to create a system of teaching or working with children with special needs, where you can have like understand the children from a movement perspective. What kind of a movement pattern does this child require to help him come out of his shell and interact with the outside world, because that is one of the major challenges in children with autism. So it has proven to be very effective, but the thing is, like, since we come from a purely parkour background, we basically suck at documenting and understanding and breaking down and understanding the whole process of it. But we are trying to work that, but we are trying to establish, because every city and town in the world right now has a parkour community. There is no governing body, there is no organization that's driving it. It's purely because of, again, the human need for movement, for exploring areas, for, like, you come to a new place, you immediately look around and you kind of have a feel for it, you want to try it. Social propriety, different reasons prevent you from doing it, but beyond that, every city has a major group. Like, there are like 50 hundreds of people who are training. So if we can create a system of working with these children, then every parkour group is already prepared and ready to work. Something that a regular person might not understand, a person who's practiced parkour for enough number of years will immediately get it. Oh, this is what we do. Okay, let me implement it, kind of a mentality will be there. So we are trying to work along those lines. And similarly with children with cerebral palsy, people who are wheelchair bound, we are trying to work with them to increase their range of movement by giving them an environment to which they can react to. Usually what happens is they are bound to a wheelchair, or they are limited by their physical limitations. So what we try to do is we create environments for them where they can by themselves do different movement patterns that they are normally used to. Like, one of the things that we found was in cerebral palsy children who are like, mostly if you put them on the ground, they will just lie there, or they'll just try to roll. They'll just try basic movements. They love going upside down. They love slopes. So we put them on a slope, we let them slide down, and then they end up in a very tangled, difficult position, but we give them the space to actually work out of it. And it kind of gives them the confidence, their interaction improves. So the teachers come back and say, like, okay, he's becoming more and more interactive, he's able to communicate better, and it totally improves the child over a period of time. And this has also helped us. So when we are working with these children, regular children become like very easy to understand in terms of why they do, how their behavior affects, and why they do certain things in a certain way. So one of like yeah, so that is the crux of what we are trying to do with parkour, to take it into education. So it's become a club activity, it's a fun activity for children. So schools have started working with us in that sense, and this year we are trying to make it as an elective subject for children to study in like say like cooking or life skills. They can also study parkour. And there is also a potential for parkour to be used as an educational tool, to teach concepts, to teach different kids different abilities. Where like one of the things that we've done is, like, we worked with the school in Pondicherry called Satya Special School. So in that school, we showed them what and all we do, and like after a couple of months, when we went back, they had created a whole system of teaching the children. They had one pulley, and then they had a bucket, and they had letters with on the outside of the building, and one kid was running around and putting that, and there was a table, and they had to make the children grow up the table and pull the rope and then get the letter, and then there was a whole way they had integrated. We did nothing of that. We just showed them how to climb up the table and climb down, but we realized that there is like a lot of ways that parkour can be used once you understand the basic principles. So that's one of the things that we wanted to put across to people, to to learn parkour, to explore, because we come from a single dimension of training in terms of parkour. But what else can be done with it is something, because there's a lot of potential that we see with whatever limitations we have. Probably people who are already working and who have a different perspective might be able to give us a better idea and use it more, because after we started working with the special needs children is when our perspective of how we approach parkour changed. So probably we can lead to something better for everybody. So yeah, thank you.